I am, and if you know me well, you'll know this, I am not a deep thinker. Nope. I'm not a deep thinker. My brothers are deep thinkers. In fact, my older brother Mike, you could be sitting around talking to him and say something like, God, I was driving over here, Mike, and two guys are fighting on the street. I was just thinking about that. You know what it is? It's tribal, back all the way to the days of cavemen, tribes, the people that survived are the ones that fought the other ones, the ones that didn't fight are not here today. Okay? You might be driving and you go, man, that guy's tailgating. So I know why people tailgate, But I've always admired my brothers. We all admire each other, and since he was such a deep thinker and a good thinker, and I didn't think I was at the time, I was surprised that we all admired each other. And then, my younger brother went to Iraq, and he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, and is doing a lot of thinking about that. And it's one of the things that makes me really dislike war. People that have to go through this, the soldiers and the victims and all. So how it happened for me was that I finally realized that I think in a different way. I don't think deeply, because the deeper I go in one direction, the more I realize I'm forgetting this other direction. So for me, everything is bubbled up, and it comes to me quickly. So that's what I finally had to come to realize. And I do all right. I wrote this song called Reach that we did a couple weeks ago. And it took me, I was given a week to write it. I gave myself a week. And all I had was, I reached out my hand to the other side, help me understand what you need to survive. That's all I had. And then it just came, on the day that I had to have it done, it all came in like 1 hour. And I think it's a good song. So not asking. So, anyway, here's me, the non-deep thinking brother, and I was given the topic for today, April 9th, which is the science of the absolute. You laugh well, it's sort of laughter of nervousness for me. Because at first I thought, I'm the wrong guy to talk about this, man, because as far as I can tell, there are no absolutes. Then later still, I thought about it some more, and I thought, I'm still the wrong guy to do this. Because I take things literally. They change, by the way, so in case you're wondering. I think if you consider the absolute, it requires thinking about either religion, science, or philosophy. Science, even with this demand for empirical evidence, does not think that it's absolute. Religion, there are total absolutes in religion, right? Just ask a born-again Christian. There are definite authorities that tell you whether you're wrong or right. Absolute. And then philosophy. If you're like me and you start trying to read philosophy, you just go blah, 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 blah. In fact, there's a book by Descartes back there. And I go, I'm just going to open up to any page. Blah, 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 blah. And I wrote to another page. I was going to actually pull the book up and have someone pick a number and read the page. But let's go over all three: science, philosophy, and religion from a mental point of view. From the mind, science we'll begin with. Because I don't know if there is a God. I just don't know. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying there is. I haven't seen absolute proof, aside from the little I can understand about the workings of the universe as related by physicists. There is an order. And according to theoretical physicists, we're not far from understanding the order, for having a theory that covers everything. Look at you, humankind. That is awesome. We sent men to the moon. We sent men to the moon. Then, not long ago, did you guys watch this? We sent a rocket to Mars. Mars is going like this. I don't know how we figured this out. We go, it's going to be right there, right now. Not only did we do that, we had to go through Mars's atmosphere, land, open up. The little rover came out, and it starts sending information back to us based on our commands from here. I feel like a slack-jawed idiot when I watch that. I am amazed at human beings, what we have done. Stephen Hawking says, we are just an advanced breed of monkeys of a very average start, but we can understand the universe, and that makes us something very special. Dave, for nodding your head, it's very true. A few years ago, I was going to say, man, I want to understand absolute, because this has been a bugaboo in my life. What is absolute? What is absolute? I want to find what absolute is. So I'm going to read Stephen Hawking's new book, I said. It's about physics, and it's the lay person, the lay idiot can understand. And the first thing he said, I go, oh, this is it, man. I'm going to find the absolute truth. The first thing he says is there are no absolutes in physics. But then he also said one cannot really argue with a mathematical theorem, so it felt a little better. Scientific laws are not absolute truths. In fact, the core philosophy of the scientific method is that there is no scientific fact that's considered to be an absolute truth. So I'm veering away from this one with this talk today. Some theories are accepted to be near absolute. The earth revolves around the sun. It's near spherical. If you play a string and it vibrates 440 times per second, you get the A below middle C on Earth. Not as it is in heaven. So, science. Religion, the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods, a particular system of faith and worship. It is in this description that I think science of mind comes close to religion and philosophy, because I hear us saying that there is one God and all that, and I go, damn, it sounds like religion, you know. As for having saviors or saints, goddesses are men in the sky, facings towards Mecca, people coming in spaceships, messages on metal found in the deserts. Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, or even universes that give you what you want, you can have them. They're at your beck and call. They're there to serve you. In many cases, you're there to serve them. But there is an absolute science. One would say that there's a godlike presence in the law of physics, and the Big Bang kind of proves it in a way, because the Big Bang rolled out following mathematical equation, the physics. It's as if God said, let there be mathematics before he said, let there be light. Philosophy. Here we go. Once I accompanied a friend of mine to a college philosophy class. She said, it's really cool. The instructor is cool. You'll learn a lot. And I went there, and the instructor was doing these philosophical arguments and these counter arguments and these counter philosophical arguments. I went, I'm going to go away, man. This is too much thinking for me. There is, and I never knew this, an ongoing, I got to read this next part, scholarly argument about whether philosophy is absolute science. People arguing back and forth in muddled terminology. There's a German philosopher named Edmund Husserl. Anyone heard of Edmund Husserl? You? You might find this part entertaining. I just find it low. Okay. He established the school. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. Because I'm your friend. I went and studied the words that are in this next section. And I'll give you a description of what the words mean like this, so you know that I'm talking about him or what he said. Here we go. You guys ready?
Right.
He established the school of phenomenology, primarily concerned with the systematic reflection on and study of the structures of consciousness and the phenomena that appear in acts of consciousness. In his early work, he elaborated critiques of historicism, a mode of thinking that assigns major significance to a specific context, such as a historical period, geographical place, and local culture. And of psychologism, a philosophical position according to which psychology plays a central role in grounding or explaining some other non-psychological type of fact or law, in logic based on analysis of intentionality. So,
That explains it. It's all clear now.
It gets even better. Long after Husserl was safely in his grave, Fred Edelman wrote, Husserl sees the reduction by the instrument by which philosophy can be constructed progressively as a strict and universal science of total being. Although this work of construction may never be completed even by generations of phenomenologists, the ideal retains its validity because the absolute possibility of its realization has been assured once and for all by the phenomenological method. How do you argue with that? And by the way, if anyone is out there going, I understand that what you just said, don't come and try to explain it to me later. Just let me live. I can't just argue off philosophy. It's just because I don't understand it, that's all. It's probably like me talking to music, this one doesn't understand it. I can't just write it off because I have a philosophy that I'm a brain dead moron, and I'll tell you why. When I was writing that whole last section, typing it all out and figuring out what the meanings are, our cat named Belle jumped up on our desk and stepped on the button to our power strip through which the computer is plugged in and turned off the computer, and I lost everything. So, I turned it back on and booted back up. Rewrote the whole thing, and our cat named Belle jumped up on the desk and turned off the computer. I did not say that, of course. So then I wrote it all back in, and I wrote more and more and more. And Sandy came home and went, I need to use the computer. I said, yeah, man, I need a break. Anyway, I'm going to go watch some TV. After about 5 minutes, there's Sandy going, hey, Dennis, did you save that stuff? No, why? She went, because Belle just turned off the But she had the presence of mind to go figure out how to cover it up so it never happened again. So, yeah, hey, I got it all. It's all right then. Okay, let's get into some theoretical psychology. And let's say you ask me, is there anything in the universe that is absolute and not relative? If I say yes, the answer to the question is an absolute truth, right? Absolute yes, truth. If I were to say no, then it affirms that there is an absolute truth, because in my answer, I'm saying absolutely, there is no absolute truth. This was a long day's journey tonight. I gotta tell you. I sweated blood for this thing. If you ask, is your answer a fact, and I say no, then I'm refuting the original claim that there are no absolute truths, and thus affirming the idea that there is an absolute truth. So
either way you lose.
So I think that it will prove that there is and isn't absolute in the mind. But wait a minute. Wait a sec, I'm saved. We're all saved because what about the heart? That's where we're going to find our absolutes. Absolutely true. What is in the heart? Here's a great example, and I say this in admiration for someone who has a very strong religious belief. Let's say that you're arguing with a Christian friend, and the Christian friend is saying, you will go to hell unless you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior and believe in Him as the Savior. And you went, God, those are words that you're saying, but let's go find out. In this scenario, you build a time machine, you go back in time, and you meet Jesus, and somehow you learn ancient Hebrew at the same time. And you're talking to him, and you're going, look, my friend here says that you are the absolute Savior. He goes, I am. For me. But you are for you. Well, let's say in this scenario, this is what he says. And then you go, well, he also says that if you don't believe in you as the absolute Savior, that we will go right in hell, burning in the fires of hell forever. There's going to be people killing each other by the thousands based on you. And let's say, what if you went, go back into the future and tell them it is not true. I am not the absolute Savior. We are all our own Saviors. Let's say he said that. And he came back, the Christian would go, see, that proves he's the Savior. True? I gotta admire that. I mean, I think it's true. I think that's how it would work. The question is there an absolute science or religion, science or philosophy or anything? Ernest Holmes thought that there is one. He says this: the unconditioned, that which nothing can limit, that which forever transcends any conceivable limitation or determination. Unconditioned perfection, self-existent, self-sufficient, often is a synonym for God. Truth is absolute and remains unaffected by the opinions, desires, or beliefs of men. Ernest Holmes. I know that for quite a while when I came here, people would just start quoting him. I never knew who he was, really. So in case you don't know who he is, I'll talk a little bit about him. He was born in Maine. He grew up in Maine. He was born in the late 1800s, and Maine was the hellfire and damnation of the country. It was very strict. It was fear-based. But his parents didn't buy that at all. His mom refused to have their children believe in the fear of or fearing religion or God. And one day there was a preacher at their church who was saying, "You guys are the worms of dust. And you will return to the worms of dust, and that's all you are." And as they're riding home, the dad is upset. The dad is upset, going, "No, that is not true. You are not worms." And it's a big lie. Jesus said, "You are gods, and you are like God if you keep it that way." Man was made by God, and any other story is a lie. Holmes really soaked this knowledge in, and he moved to Los Angeles. And he became, even as a young man, he became a well-known speaker around the area. He consolidated religious precepts, seeking to get rid of things that did not seem as absolute truths to him. For example, and I like this one, he subscribed to the popular idea. He never subscribed to hell, basically. If there was one, he once said, God would have to have a hand in it, and if he did have a hand in it, he wouldn't be God, he would be the devil. Tricia, you were mentioning today that you guys moved to Hilo and you never really knew what drew you there. I think that's interesting because I wanted to talk about that a little bit too. I want to do a little sidetrack here. For reasons we're never able to explain, we grow to love certain things, bands, certain politics, driving habits, friends and lovers, philosophies and composers or artists, times in history. I can never explain why, as a young boy, I became a fan of, Ann Solden and Helen Keller were real heroes of mine. I couldn't tell you why. Not only they're awesome, but also Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and the Beatles, Jack Bruce and Yes and Kansas, Lewis and Clark. I got books on Lewis and Clark. San Francisco in the 1850s for some reason. Why I would pick that decade of that town? I don't know, but I think every book ever written on that area. And baseball. I got a million books on baseball and a million more on my, The Lord of the Rings, the song Sukiyaki by Q Sakamoto, it bring me somewhere. I can't tell you why, but I can tell you this one. I can tell you why Amelia Earhart has always been a hero of mine. And it's because I love people who do things that are really hard without a cause for doing it, but they're just drawn to do them. And Amelia Earhart was drawn to fly. She didn't care that over that door leading to being a pilot, it said men only. I think she just kicked that door down, and there's guys underneath with their arms sticking out, and she just walked right through. I love that. I love Amelia Earhart. I mean, that's, as I understand her, that is how she became a pilot, because she was going to be one. And no men only was going to stop it, and she could fly. What brings us to the things we love, though? What brings us to the philosophies we love? What brings us to science, to our religion? And what brings us here today? I can tell you a little bit about why I come here. That's because I need to be reminded every once in a while that I'm in charge of my life. It's me that controls my mind. Holmes said, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. There is one power in the universe, and we all use it. When we refer to God, we are really referring to the core of our own being, the core of our own life, the core of our own soul. And maybe my favorite Ernest Holmes quote is right here. In the philosophy of Christianity, if it were lived, wars would cease, unhappiness would cease, economic problems would be solved, poverty would be wiped from the face of the earth, and man's humanity to man would be transmuted into a spiritual, mutual happiness. And Lonnie, you were talking to her. Go ahead. You mentioned tag today. I got tag here. Tagger. I came across a doctor who was in quite poor health. I said, there's nothing I can do for you that you couldn't do for yourself. He said, oh yes you can. Just hold my hand. For to me, not to be kind is evil of the mind. Another philosopher that we have amongst us by the name of Mark Johnson says, we all know God is love and light, so we simply have to turn on our heart lights, and then each of us awaken our humanity to our spiritual magnificence. I want to quote Stephen Hawking one more time. I love this guy. To show that not only did he have an awesome IQ, this guy was a human being. He goes, if I could build a time machine, where do you think he would go? He goes, I'd go visit Marilyn Monroe in her prime. Or I'd drop in on Galileo to see him look at turn his telescope to the universe. I'd like to close with one of my favorite people of all time. I love this man, Buck O'Neill. Probably not many of you heard of him, but he was a black baseball player through the middle 1900s, back when they couldn't make it to the major leagues. They were not good enough to be the major leagues. Although I know a number of white baseball players who played against the Negro League teams thought that they were more than good enough, but it was probably good they didn't come to the major leagues. And I also like to talk about Ty Cobb, who was in the major leagues. And he was born in the 1880s in rural Georgia, a white boy out of Georgia. And he fought and scrapped his way to become one of the best major league players ever. And prejudice against black people, what a shock that would be, that he came out of Georgia and he was prejudiced. But he was violent and hostile towards black people. A lady was asking Buck O'Neill, what about Ty Cobb, and his feeling that white people have superiority over blacks. Don't you condemn him for that? And Buck O'Neill says, who am I to condemn? Let me tell you something. They asked me, Buck, I know you hate people for what they did to you, or what they did to your folk. And I say, no, I never learned to hate. But wait, I hate cancer. My mom died of cancer. My wife died of cancer. I hate AIDS. My friend died of AIDS. But I can't hate a human being. That's God's creature. And God never made anything ugly. You can get ugly if you want to. And a lot of people did. Actually, I'm sorry for the guy that hates me because I'm black. Poor fella. It doesn't hurt me. It hurts him. It doesn't hurt me. It makes me grow. Because any way you put it, you're my brother. You're my sister. And I would like to close with something Buck O'Neill said that I think is an absolute truth. Because someone had to teach Ty Cobb to be prejudiced. No baby is prejudiced, no. You got to teach these things. You got to teach these things. Thank you.